Alright, so today I want to talk about what James Taylor considers to be the proper way to tune your guitar. Now, for those of you who don't know who James Taylor is, ask your parents, or at this point, maybe even your grandparents. James Taylor is considered to be one of the most prominent singer-songwriters of specifically the 1970s. He's a 6-time Grammy winner and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2000. On top of that, he's also widely considered to be one of the most prominent acoustic guitarists. He has a way of writing guitar parts that are surprisingly intricate and delicate and add so much to the vocal melodies and lyrics that he typically writes. So I've seen this video, as many of you probably have, of James Taylor explaining how he tunes his guitar very slightly differently from how a typical tuner would tune a guitar and consider it to be in tune. His reasoning for doing this is because he says that it helps the guitar play a little bit more in harmony with itself, as well as it helps to compensate for the inherent imperfections that exist within a guitar, and specifically an acoustic guitar. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, guitars are inherently flawed. It's just the way they're built. For example, if you were to take any one of your strings, make sure that it's in tune when you pluck it open, and then with the tuner still on, fret every single fret moving up the neck. You'd notice that some frets are in tune, some frets aren't, and it's just kind of the nature of the beast. And this isn't just guitars, it's the same way for many other instruments, especially like piano, where they're always gonna have to be a little bit quirky and a little bit off of what is technically correct. Aside from ergonomics, that's the reason why we have things like fan fretted guitars, is because it can help to compensate for that. In addition to that, we have what are called true temperament frets, which are frets that are shaped to specifically adjust for those imperfections that you might find moving up and down the fretboard. Now, the imperfections that James says are fixed with his specific tuning are things like using capos and compensating for the inherent tonal shift that occurs there, playing up the neck, and how lower bass strings are typically sharper when plucked more aggressively. He also says that the B string just always needs to be a little bit more flat than it typically is. Now, when he says that the tuning needs to be slightly different from a standard tuning, we mean very slightly. We're talking he's measuring things in at most 12 cents. Now, a cent is 1/100th of a half step. So for instance, he's saying you should tune your low E string down 12/100ths of a half step lower than what standard tuning is typically described as. These are microtonal adjustments. So today we want to find out how much of a difference they really make. So in order to do this, we have to make sure that we have a tuner that actually shows us cents. Not all tuners do that. For me, I had to use one that's in my DAW, my digital audio workstation, the program that I use to record all my audio. I had to use the tuner in that, which you can see here in this screen grab. So James says that the high E string needs to be -3 cents from standard, the B string needs to be -6, the G string needs to be -4, the D string needs to be -8, the A string needs to be -10, and the E string, the low E string, needs to be -12. So let's check it out. A side note on tuning, make sure that when you tune, you drop down below your target pitch and then tune up to it. This is ensuring that you're stretching the string to the actual pitch rather than letting it maybe get caught behind the nut or behind the saddle or something like that. Essentially, it means that you'll have a more stable tuning. Now, I've seen this video discussed by other content creators before. The thing that I want to see is, does it apply to just James Taylor songs? Does it apply to strumming? Does it apply to electric guitar? Does it apply to an overdriven guitar? So let's check those out. First up, here's an actual James Taylor song played in our typical standard tuning and then in the Taylor tuning. Up next, let's see what sort of a difference it makes when strumming. Now let's jump over to an electric and see if it really makes a difference there. Now let's see what sort of a difference it makes when there's overdrive. All right, so for me, it's been a couple days. I recorded them, set them aside because I had a bunch of other sessions and other work I had to do, and then I threw them into the editing bay and spliced them together as you just saw them so that I could really hear them side by side. So I have two sides to my thoughts. I have the side of what it felt like to play them and what I remember feeling like, and my thoughts on the actual recording of them. So let's talk about actually playing them. Honestly, I didn't necessarily feel like there was any feel difference as far as under the fingers. I did notice a difference though, especially when it came to the louder strumming things. I felt like my guitar kind of didn't sound like it was being pushed as far. It felt a lot more open. And on the actual James Taylor fingerpicking stuff, it felt a little bit more kind of comfortable, a little more open as far as how it sounded in the room while I was playing it and all that sort of fun stuff. However, after listening back to it, there's almost no discernible difference in the fingerpicking stuff. At least I felt like. Ultimately, it kind of made me laugh because I felt like where this tuning really shined was in the strumming, the hard strumming parts. And that makes me laugh because a lot of, if not the majority of what James Taylor writes is fingerpicking type stuff. Where I really heard the difference on the actual recording was in the low strings. And that to me actually made a difference that made me kind of go, huh, I actually could see a reason for this. In my opinion, pulling those bass strings down a little bit more made the bass feel a little bit more grounded and solid. It kind of brought it out a little bit more, and it made it so that all of these open chords, whether it was acoustic or electric, kind of had this cohesion and this harmony to it that I really enjoyed. Now, would I go through the effort of doing this every single time? No. In my opinion, trying to tune each of these strings down -3, -4, -8, -12, whatever it was was hard, honestly. Trying to be that precise down to 1/100th of a half step. And, you know, maybe it was the tuner I was using. There's a lot of factors that could go into this. But it took me so long to make sure that I was in these precise tunings that I don't think it's necessarily worth it to spend all this time unless it was in like a recording type situation where the guitar's pitch mattered a lot. In short, I think that it's a tool that can be utilized for specific scenarios rather than a rule to live by. Now, to each their own, right? James Taylor loves this. James Taylor has 6 Grammys. I don't. So there could be something to be said about that. And there's something to be said about, you know, how your body actually reacts to waves. They've done studies that show that heartbeats create an electromagnetic field, and sound waves and other people interact with that field that's around you. And so there could be something to be said about that feeling that I got while I was playing it, where it felt more open and more peaceful. But again, unless they come out with a tuner where you can like program in that you want your low E to actually be -12 from what it would normally be, I don't think it's worth it to go through all the effort and to make sure you have it, unless you're like James Taylor and have your own guitar tech who can do it for you and that sort of thing. If you're tuning your own guitars in a gig type setting, it's not gonna fly. Sorry, it'll take too long. The audience is gonna get pissed, you know? It's just more trouble than it's worth. But I'd love it if you guys would try this out and let me know what you think. Down in the description, I'll post what each string is supposed to be. Try it out, comment, let me know what you think. Also, let me know what your favorite James Taylor song is, because I've kind of been on a James Taylor kick lately, probably because of this video, actually. So let me know down in the comments. Always good to see you guys. Please like and subscribe. So close to passing that 1,000 subscriber goal. Please help. Please be a part of it, you know? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. My name is Mac Wright. Please go make someone else's day better, and we will see you